Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the National Black Parenting Conference. I'm so excited to have you all here today because we're about to have an incredible event filled with knowledge, empowerment, and community. But before we jump in, I have something amazing to share with you. Something that has been in the works just for you. And I'm beyond proud to introduce the Black Parenting Academy. Now, I am going to need to share my screen for this to show you guys because it's so amazing. So give me 1 minute. I'm going to pull that up here for you so you can see it because I want to share that.
And
And here we
while you're
go.
doing that,
Okay.
Derek is on with Pop Stars.
Okay, good, Derek. Hang in there. We're going to call you up in 1 minute. Okay. But I want to show everyone the Black Parenting Academy. Let me move this out of the way. So this is a game changer. It's the first of its kind platform created for us, by us, designed to give Black parents the resources, expert advice, and community support that we need to thrive. From parenting masterclasses to real talk on raising our children in today's world, this is the village you've been looking for. And guess what? You guys are the first to see it. So let's not wait any longer. Let me show you what we built. So there's me. But let me get to the real good stuff down here. We have master classes by experts for parents of every age group. You can see we have parents of children under 6, parents of school age children, parents of teenagers, single parents, parents with special needs. And we're also going to have like a generic category that you may be interested in. So the Black Parenting Academy launches this spring. If you're interested in learning more, go to the website at blackparentingacademy.com. Aluchi will put that into the chat. And what you can do is just join the waiting list. Hit that button right there. It says join the waiting list. And that way you can receive further notifications and updates on the program later this month. If you have any questions about that, you can put it in the chat and I'll try to answer it during the session. All right. So I know we have Derek. Do we have our other sponsor here from True? I see Malik. Yes. So I'm going to bring Malik and Derek to the stage. Lucia, I need to make them a co-host to do that. Okay, let me do that real quick. I'm going to make Malik, hold on, and then I gotta find Derek.
I believe, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, Malik, hold on 1 second. I'm going to introduce you. I've got to find Derek. I can't find his name. It's moving fast.
I changed it to Pop Stars Popcorn.
Oh, did you?
That's
Oh,
me
that's
talking.
why I couldn't find you. Okay, hold on a minute. Let me make you a co-host real quick and just hang in there. Let me give you guys both introduction. All right. So I want to recognize these amazing companies. You can see them behind me on our backdrops that we have. They have supported this event and helped bring it to life. You guys can virtually clap for them using the react button down there and just let them give them love and just simply drop some emojis in the chat if you don't know how to do that. But of course, you can always give a real round of applause wherever you are. So I want to show some love first. If we can bring True Laundry Detergent Malik up first.
Malik, that's not Malik, that's Raheem.
Raheem, I see Malik. Where's Raheem? I see Malik. I made a co-host. Raheem, where are you, Raheem? Let me find you. Let me see if I can find you here. I'm not finding your name, Raheem.
Here?
Yeah, I hear you. I just don't see your name, so I can bring you to the screen.
Okay, my name is Abdul Raheem.
Abdul Rahim, I'm looking for you. Okay, I see you there. Okay, good. She got you. All right. So we're going to bring you to the stage. Can you just talk a little bit about the detergent? Because I know it's one of the fastest growing Black-owned detergent brands dedicated to creating quality, eco-friendly, and effective cleaning products for families like ours. And I am a purchaser. So I want you to say a few words about it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You ready?
Yeah, we're ready. Go.
Okay then. Okay, this is True Detergent. We started in 13 years ago, and it only requires 1 ounce per load. It's an excellent product. It's what the people tell us, and we've always done a money back guarantee. And we only had one person to return in the 13 years. So if we still here, the product is really good, right? So we have products that we don't use that harm the environment. For instance, like use 1 ounce per load with ours. And the reason why it's like that, right, is because the less detergent you use, the less chance you have of compromising the clean water system. So we don't just make detergent just to make money. right? We make the detergent so that it's safe for the environment, safe for the people that's using it. And we intend to build a institution. Our institution is like, well, like we have religious institutions, we have education institution, we need business institution that will be here for 100 years from now, so that when we educate our children, we have the business that can meet the demands for the salaries that they're going to demand, right? So we need to do that so that we can use the young people that we spend money on educating. They can come back and bring that education back to our community. And so that's one of our missions, is to build a business that's going to be here for generations to come.
And you guys have been in business for
We have
14 years?
So cleaning products.
Right. 14 years now?
Say that again?
You've been in business for 14 years now?
This is our 13th year.
13th year. Okay. Well, guys, this smells really good too. So if you're looking to support Black businesses, this is one that truly deserves your attention. And be sure to check out their website, and they have special conference discounts. Use the link.
NotTrueProducts.com and go on and be a subscriber.
Right. That's
so
right.
That you use the detergent on a consistent basis. We need your support. And we definitely need, the mothers have supported our business. 99.9% of our business has come through mothers. And so we need y'all support. And make sure you let your children know that it's an African-American made product, so they can grow up understanding that we need to support our own kind. And that'll create jobs and opportunity for us.
That's right. All right. I appreciate you, Raheem, for coming and talking about Pop Stars. We have the link we're going to post in the chat. And that way you guys can check it out, save that link. I guarantee you it's a business that you're going to be happy with. And I just want to say, we also have a delicious sponsor for the National Black Parenting Conference, the Pop Stars Popcorn, and they're providing one prize for one lucky person in attendance at tomorrow's conference. So make sure you join us from 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. so you don't miss the prizes. And we have networking as well, some great panels and workshops. So go ahead. You guys can talk about Pop Stars Popcorn.
Well, hey, everybody. We are Derek and Tavia Jackson, the founders and owners of Pop Stars Popcorn. We are located in Concord, North Carolina, which is the Charlotte metropolitan area, but we ship nationally. Okay, so Pop Stars Popcorn, our brand offers 200 flavors of gourmet popcorn. You're saying, hold on, what? No. 200 flavors of gourmet popcorn. So it gets kind of crazy. We got something just to show you right now, because we're gonna have some giveaways. We have Nashville hot chicken. We've got Skittles, which is called Afro Circus. We've got strawberry cheesecake. We do cookies and cream, red velvet, banana pudding, all on popcorn. Black owned, woman owned, and veteran owned. And we are excited to be a part of this conference. We, it's just amazing that you guys, it's been a long week, I'm sure, and I know you want some snacks, and we got you, okay? But we just really, really appreciate just being invited to participate in this movement of the parenting conference. And I'm gonna turn it over to our CEO, Miss Tavia Jackson.
Hello, everybody. So we are Black parents. We actually have a high schooler, a middle schooler, and a preschooler. We got one in every area except college right now. So we know that they love popcorn. We do popcorn for teachers, popcorn for Valentine's Day treats. We do popcorn for birthday parties, popcorn fundraisers for the school, for the cheer, for the dance, for the karate, for the band, all the things. So we range from just having a wonderful time with popcorn to providing nutritious snacks, to providing snacks that we have gluten-free snacks, we have dairy-free snacks, we have vegan snacks, we have snacks without the red dye for your babies. So we're just excited and honored to be a part of this and celebrate amazing Black parents. So.
Right. And we're in the car right now because we are celebrating our anniversary weekend, but we had to pop in to make sure that we joined the movement. The website's going to be popstarspopcorn.com, POPSTARZ, popcorn.com. The social media will be exactly the same, Popstars Popcorn. On IG, it's going to have an underscore behind it. We do popcorn for the Carolina Panthers, the Charlotte Football Club, and we do NASCAR. We just did an order for Yelp. We do a lot of fun stuff. So we're looking forward to helping you and your companies add to your culture of celebration and just be able to recognize people with some guilt-free rewards.
That's fantastic. Now, guys, you got Valentine's Day coming up. It's still time to get your orders in. I know we can't do it for Super Bowl, but we can get it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Hey, we have Super Bowl flavors out, so we have flavors in the colors of the teams that are in the Super Bowl. So we have
Eagles.
a Philly mix, a Philly
We
mix.
have that.
I'm
And
Philly. All right. All right. Well, thank you guys. I thank you for coming to the stage. I'll see you again tomorrow. But let's give a round of applause to Pop Stars Popcorn as well. They are a delicious Black-owned gourmet popcorn brand. Whether you love sweet, savory, spicy, they got something for you. And that's why we're also putting that link in the chat. You should see it. So check that out and save it as well. You know, sponsors like these make it possible for us to continue empowering Black parents. So let's make sure they feel appreciated, guys. Make sure you don't just say I buy Black. Make sure you actually buy Black. Spend your money where you put it where your mouth is, as they say. All right. So I mentioned networking. We have a little bit of housekeeping. I would like everyone to post in the chat who you are, what you do, and where you're located so that you guys see each other. And also remember that today is just the kickoff for the virtual conference tomorrow. Be there at 9 a.m. We'd love to see you. I know it's early, I know, but be there at 9 a.m. We're going to have some fun. Use the same link. If we have some of our speakers in attendance, please raise your virtual hand right now so that people can see your names pop up. I'd appreciate that. Just like hit the little raise hand button and let people know you are part of this event. Thank you. Thank you. I see Marie, everyone raise your hand there. Okay. Now, we do have a feedback form specific to this keynote kickoff. That's something to say, keynote kickoff. And Lucci will be putting the feedback form in the chat too, guys. We need to know how to make this better. Our goal is to do this in person next year. So your information that you give us, we're going to take that to heart and we're going to try to make each event better and better. So add that in there. You know, once everyone's finished putting where they are from so it doesn't get lost, we need you to fill out that feedback form. We'll put it up several times during the keynote. So take it, fill it out by the end of the night, okay? And I want you to get ready to take notes. Take notes and get your questions ready for our keynotes question and answer session at the end. And stay tuned to the very end. And I'm now going to get ready for our keynote address. So what if the most powerful tool for changing your child's education is your voice? How can you use it to demand better schools, greater equity, and real results starting today? Today's keynote speaker will be talking about just that. Dr. Meredith Anderson, the Director of K-12 Research at the United Negro College Fund, UNCF, is an expert in educational reform and advocacy for African American students. Her work focuses on addressing systemic inequities in education and expanding opportunities for Black students, uplifting the voices of the Black community in education, and expanding HBCU awareness in schools and communities. With extensive expertise in data analysis, Dr. Anderson has contributed to the development of teacher evaluation systems and longitudinal student tracking in Maryland and published several reports. I can talk. Dr. Anderson has also taught courses at the American University and Georgetown University. She has presented her research to policymakers, mayors, practitioners, researchers at various conferences and convenings throughout the country. A highly respected researcher and educator, she holds a doctorate in political science from Texas A&M University, where she also completed her undergraduate studies. She resides in Washington, D.C. with her husband and 2 children. Give her some love as we bring her to the stage. Everyone, clap for her.
Thank you.
Thank you
Janice.
so much. Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Thank you all for being here tonight. Let me go ahead and share and make sure I have it up correctly. If you can give me a thumbs up. Janice, can you see it? All right, perfect. Okay. Okay, so thank you all. Thank you, Janice, just for the opportunity. Thank you all for being here on a Friday night. I know it might be a busy time for families or pizza night or movie night like us. But maybe like many parents, you're multitasking. So just thank you. Also, thank you to my husband for tech support and helping me get situated today. And also to my parents who I dedicate this talk to and who may be watching. I think they figured out the Zoom. Shout out to mom and dad for getting it up. And to my children who told me my hair looked cool today. So, I'm doing something right for today. So I want to kind of start off with a couple of questions. So just rhetorically, how many of you on the call are professionals? You might obviously own your own businesses, work your 9 to 5. You show up to your meetings on time. You may be a volunteer in your community. You're reliable. But how many of you all, though, in the words of our former President Obama, will pop off when it comes to your children, to your kids? Cue knuck if you buck, okay? Raise your hand if you know you are showing up for your children. I see some raised hands over there. So, but in all seriousness, for many of us, we know that we're going to show up and stand up for our kids, whether that be in the classroom, the playing field for sports, or elsewhere. And that's the energy I want us to start with tonight, because as Black parents, we have to be unapologetic advocates for our children and our community. And you see, Black parents have always been strong pillars in the community, from grassroots efforts in the civil rights movement to today's parent-led initiatives. We know the power of lifting up our voice. And you see, I grew up in Texas, and I always had examples of Black families that were really deeply engaged. From my grandmother, who was a school teacher at times, to, seeing if it pops up, there we go, a teacher and advocate, often working in the voting polls, to my paternal grandmother who dedicated her life to service as well as in the church. Here's a picture of both of them. Check out those waves and those eyebrows back in the day. And to my parents and siblings who ensured that I knew the value of education, but also the importance of advocacy. See, like many of you dedicated here on a Friday night, my parents instilled in me the value of advocacy and education from a young age. I can recount countless times where they were in schools being an advocate for me, and not just for me, but for my community as well. I remember one story where, as an elementary student, a teacher falsely accused me of plagiarism on a book report. This is elementary school, and now this is pre-chat GBT. So I was not plagiarizing, looking to, copy anything on the internet. But as a kid, I just loved to write, hence my profession now. I'm a writer, advocate. And when I was a child, I just loved to write. I had my own writing company, Reader's Art. My sister was my publisher, helping me write down books and on the typewriter and computer. And so now going back to that teacher, this was the same teacher who said that I struggled with talking in class. Put it in the chat if you were one of those students where your teacher told you that you talk too much, that you struggle with talking, and maybe you're a speaker in your current role. So we hear that often. And it was interesting because actually over the Christmas break, I actually found one of those notes. My mom, she keeps some of the notes from our childhood, and there was a note that says, and I quote, Meredith needs to remember the no talking rule. So, I had things to say as a child. And so it was always something with this teacher who shall remain nameless. And my parents, they showed up for me, and they had a word with the teacher about the accusation, and it was resolved. But had I not had those parents who fought for me, who ensured that advocacy was paramount, I wouldn't be where I am today or know how to advocate with my husband for my own 2 children, because he's definitely an advocate. Shout out to the Black fathers as well. When we talk about advocacy, it's not just Black women, it's our Black fathers too. And so, again, I wouldn't have that confidence despite the attempts to dim my light. Because as my dad says, children will always model what they see. And we want other little Black girls and boys to know that they can use their voice. Like this picture of me, as a child, using my voice, Easter Sunday, lifted up my voice. But again, we want them to know that their voice matters. Again, there it is in Texas, the humidity poofing my hair all out. So I want to talk to you just about 3 things, and like they say in church, I'll be out your way. So one, talking about some receipts and challenges, thinking about dispelling some of the myths related to our advocacy. I want to also provide some advocacy tips, and thinking about some tools that we can use. So in terms of, first, I want to talk about, why I'm here in front of you. I represent the UNCF, and as many of you know, we represent our HBCU. So why am I here, talking about advocacy for parents? So we started an advocacy division about 13 years ago, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But just briefly, UNCF, put it in the chat if you know our slogan that we've had for several years. If you've seen some of the calls, the walks for education that we've had, the telethons on TV, give us some love in the chat about that. So we've been established for 81 years. We are second only to the federal government in providing scholarships for students of color. We award thousands of scholarships each year, but we also do advocacy, not only on the Hill, but in the community as well. And we represent 37 member institutions, our member HBCUs, and you can see them listed here on the screen. If you're interested, you can learn more about them, especially if you have children in high school, and learn more about our member institutions. And put it in the chat also if you are an HBCU grad. We love to get love from our HBCU graduates. And so we started our K-12 work, and I won't go into detail into this work, but we focus on community engagement, where we're in the community, talking to parents, talking to students, school counselors. If you're in education, please look into us, and we provide training. We also do messaging and research, uplifting the voices of the Black community, and human capital work, where we're ensuring we have representation across the board in education. And more recently, we've been working with HBCU K-12 partnerships, where we're starting to create more HBCU K-12 schools on our campuses. And again, this is just our messaging and research work. We've been at it for several years and published over 20 publications, and we'll drop some of that information in the chat. Ashlyn Thomas, who is a colleague of mine, she'll be dropping some information for you. So getting into our work. So starting with the receipts, we always like to talk about the receipts. Let's show the evidence and dispel some of those myths. So let's be clear. We know that as Black people, we're showing up, we're engaged, and we know that there's a resiliency. So according to census data, at the end of the 2020 school year, again, just in COVID, we were dealing with racial unrest. Black parents, Black families spend about 13 hours on average per week with their children on educational activities, which is more than several racial groups. But also in the summer months, even in the summer months of 2020, Black families spent more time on average with their children on educational activities than other racial groups. And we see the same thing as well, having more representation. Again, your attendance tonight showing your resiliency despite the current climate and things going on, being able to come here and be able to get information on your advocacy. And so I won't go into the study in detail today. I'll talk about some of the high-level findings, but we released a report where we wanted to hear from the Black community, from Black parents, and we surveyed a national sample, 500 African-American parents. We also did several sub-samples across the country and focus groups. And so getting into those myths related to our engagement, and again, this is a separate study. We also conducted a study with parents in 2012 that said the same thing, similar narratives. And so we see that African-American parent engagement is high. 84% check their child's homework or read to them on a regular basis. 83% speak to their child's teachers on a regular basis. They're checking homework, speaking with their teachers, they're reading to their children. And then in terms of this engagement, about 51% of Black parents said that their school does a very good job at making them feel respected in school. However, this increased by 10 percentage points for Black parents about 10 percentage points for Black parents who attended school with more Black teachers. So we know our Black teachers are important. As we say, Black parents matter, we really know also that Black teachers matter, and we partner with our teachers. And so we're not going to do a poll, but if you just want to put it in the chat, did you, when you were in school, did you feel like your voices were heard in your school or district as a parent? Did you feel like, just put a couple of them in the chat. Do you feel like you had that respect in your school? I see a couple of no's popping in. several no's coming in, unfortunately, from parents feeling like one parent, yes. So there are some parents, yes, that felt respected in their school. So, and that's what we saw in the study. There were a mix. We had some no, some as a student no as well. And yes, with the youngest child. So that's good that we have some yeses and we have, some people that might not feel that respect. So again, we see that, again, dispelling those narratives related to aspirations, about 84% said it was important for their children to go to college. 57% said it was extremely important. But when we look at schools with more Black teachers, 71% said that it was extremely important compared to 53% of parents that attended schools with little to no Black teachers. And so again, our Black teachers are having such a profound impact. We know the studies that show Black teachers matter for student outcomes, but we also know that they matter for parents and communities. So Black teachers are transformational for communities. And that's what we really wanted to highlight. But not only are Black teachers transformational, Black leaders are transformational. They help amplify issues of inequities, dismantle systemic racism. And our parents in our study showed that about 70% said that education would be more effective if we had more Black leaders involved. And that could be from the principal to an administrator to the 100 Black men, which one of the people in the survey talked about as well. And so we want to make sure that we're trying to advocate for more Black leaders in our schools and communities. And so despite these positive narratives, despite the fact that we know that our parents are involved and engaged, we know that there are challenges. One being the inadequate teacher and leader diversity. So despite the teachers having such a profound effect, there's only 7% of Black teachers across the country, 11% Black principals compared to 78 for white principals. But we know decades of research show that they're having such a profound effect. But then it's also a challenge with the need for resources. So we asked our parents, how do they get this information about supporting their children? And about 50% of parents said they couldn't name resources or organizations to support their children. And so we want to be able to get in the community and help. And then another problem was, like we saw in the chat, people not feeling welcomed, feeling like education was being done to them, but not with them. And so that's one thing that we want to make sure that we're pushing for at UNCF. And then another narrative was this narrative of apathy for our parents, and not just apathy, just this blame the parent mentality. So a different study, we surveyed teachers across several cities, and we asked them, what would you describe as the most significant barrier to minority students' access to college? And they talked about finances, but it was a prominent theme of parental involvement. One of the quotes said, unfortunately, I think it's a mindset inherited from parents or their community. Another said it's the greatest barrier is the home environment. Another teacher said, they don't think it's a barrier to minority students' access to college, except for their own confidence and want to attend college. But we know that that's not the case. We know that overwhelmingly from our studies and, from being in your communities, that we have high expectations. But sometimes there is misalignment between what our teachers are thinking and what the expectations are from our community. And so just for the time that I have with you, I want to talk about a couple of advocacy strategies, but then also share several resources. I don't have all the answers, but I do want to provide you with tools and tips and resources that can get you started. So again, 90%. So we said that the parents said it would be very helpful to have resources that would help them in their advocacy efforts. And 93% wanted more opportunities to be involved in the education and more input. And so I want to share a couple of these key themes. So the first being persistence. A key piece to advocacy is that persistence. Advocacy is not a one-time thing. It takes consistent efforts and follow-up. Because it's easy for a school district to, hold a listening session with parents, but it's another thing for parents to follow up on what action is being taken after those sessions. It's important to be that squeaky wheel, that gets the attention. And it's not just a check the box, we held a listening session. And I entitled this report, Hear Us, Believe Us, because it's not enough to just hear our Black parents at the table. We want to ensure schools and districts believe them. And so, but most importantly, we want them to act in ways that center their voices as critical stakeholders in their child's education. Because you see, belief, can really be elusive at times. It's rooted in trust and mutual respect. And parents know when they've been heard, but they truly recognize if they are believed when there's meaningful action taken amongst their advocacy. And so, again, lifting up your voice matters. The presence of Black parents are needed, and not just to dispel those myths. Myths are always going to be out there, but because as Black parents, we deserve to take up space. And I know, let me just say, I know Black parents get the, angry Black man or Black woman title, but there's a lot to get angry about. So I say, use your voice no matter what the narrative is out there. There is no problem with being angry when there's something to be angry about. And so I just suggest that you continue to use your voice. But then another practical tip is that data talks, from policymakers to decision makers. Check out your local district report card to support your cause. Some are more robust than others. In DC, we have a robust data system, but you're also allowed to request data through the district's data system. I used to work for a large school district and we would get data requests. Parents can request data because sometimes that data is hidden, sometimes intentionally, sometimes just not being able to provide the data. If you're coming into a roadblock with your district, you can file a Freedom of Information Act request if they don't have that data. Current standards, I think they said it could take about 20 days, sometimes a little longer. But again, like I said before, that persistence, following up to get the data that you need. Maybe there's some inequities related to discipline in your district or some other instances that you want to advocate for. Make sure that you follow up with the data. Another tip is connecting with other parents. We all probably know that quote, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so there's strength in working with parents to advance your cause. So connect with these parents. And I'll talk about a couple of organizations that I think are just doing a phenomenal job at advocating and getting parents involved. And then also, there is not a one-size-fits-all approach to advocacy. You have to use what medium works for you. Excuse me. Maybe, you use the power of the pen, like I was writing, or maybe you need more direct interaction or public speaking, digital advocacy, whatever works for you. Some of our parents may be more introverted. I'm a more introverted person at my core, but I use my voice when I have to. And so whatever works for you, make sure you use their voice because as they say, the saying goes, and we say at our job, when you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I, for one, don't want to be on the menu. I want to be at the table, helping make decisions, making sure our voices are heard, and making sure that we have a seat and have a place on that agenda. And take it from unbought and unbossed Shirley Chisholm, who said, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. So please bring a folding chair if you need to stand in the room, make sure you stand. Just make sure that your voice is heard. So I want to talk a little bit about a couple of the ways that we can engage in parent advocacy. So one being the grassroots organized engagement, the school district level engagement, or we can think about national organizations and their engagement. So at the district level, we know about our PTOs and PTAs, and oftentimes we hear it's a lot about fundraising, but it's more than just fundraising. There's opportunities to advocate for policy changes, escalate concerns for the community and for your child. So make sure, again, documentation and attending those PTAs. Sometimes, we're busy. I try to make mine. Sometimes I'm busy, but I try to follow up to see what I've missed. But then escalating at a step up, think about districts, or if you're a charter, the networks, oftentimes they have a family community engagement office. And so that's a place where not only you can get support for your child, but also escalate concerns. Some districts, like New York City, for example, they have a parent advisory council that works with the chancellor. And so it's important that we have Black parent representation on those boards. And that often comes from the PTO and people moving up in those in the ranks. Also work with student groups and your child. There's student advocacy groups across different districts, affinity groups. your own child, listen to students. Sometimes they feel like their voices are not valued in schools. We heard that in the data too. But make sure that we're listening to our students. And keeping documentation of your concerns. Again, keeping a paper trail, making sure you're keeping up with the issues. And think about, again, like I said, this graphic, shout out to Ashlyn for this, but thinking through our sphere of influence for the people that you can talk to, even your local churches and organizations as well. And then when we think about policy and having an impact, you could testify at your local school board or council meetings or write local officials. And again, like I said, there's not a one size fits all. If you're not comfortable providing in-person testimony, think about virtual testimony. Like we have on the screen, one of our DC parents from an organization, PAVE, was providing testimony here as well. But there's also written testimony. And when you think about supplying your testimony, make it personal. Talk about the impact that it's having on you, your child, your community. But provide those facts, data talks, statistics talks, thinking about discuss the implications of inaction. We want to move policymakers to action. We don't just want to voice, the concerns, which is important to do, but we want action at the end of the day. So talk about what you want, be concise, and make sure that you're getting your voices heard. And then also thinking about joining or create a coalition of parent advocates. So like I said earlier, there is power in numbers. Several cities across the country have advocacy groups. If you just seek them out, you can also connect with UNCF. We're connected to so many different parent organizations. We'll be happy to connect you to some other organizations that are doing phenomenal work with parents. Some examples that I'll talk about here. One is DC PAVE. This is Parents Amplifying Voices in Education, which is a relatively new organization, but they're having a phenomenal impact. Oakland Reach, Memphis Lift, the Urban League. And in DC, DC PAVE, they have what we call a DC Parent Voice and Choice Week, and where they go to the community, they go to community leaders and they talk about their concerns. So they just wrapped up their 2025 Voice and Choice Week. They had 13 meetings with policymakers, 13 parent meeting chairs attended. They also had 44 parent leaders, almost 50 parent leaders. And so here's a picture of them, I believe, last year with the mayor. They have several pictures of them working with people in the community, and they're organized. They vote together on issues, be that safe passage or mental health, and they make their voices heard. And so I think there's really great power in the collective. We also have in DC examples of the DC Early Childhood Pay Equity. And this mobilized parents to protest, to testify for early childhood pay for teachers. They had our parents mobilized in this work in DC. But then there's also, I want you to also think about the tips when joining coalitions. So we know, as parents, we're busy. I know I'm busy myself. And it's important when you join coalitions that they should have clear goals and actions, solution oriented, and have key deadlines. And so making sure that it's not just a coalition just to be in one, but that they're moving towards action, like we've seen with DC PAVE. And so just want to pause for a second and think about what has been the most effective way to advocate for issues at your school. So was it talking with your teachers? Was it maybe meeting with a principal, working with a school district, PTA, or other? You just take a minute to drop it in the chat here. So okay, talking with the teachers. I see a lot of meeting with the principals. Yes, principals and teacher conversations. Yes. Talking with the teachers. I see. Yes. So we see a lot with the teachers and also the PTA and PTO. So that's important, like starting what's most closest to you, making sure that you're having that conversations. A and B, yes, I see talking with the teachers. So a lot of good conversations we're having with their teachers. All right, Tawana, all of the above. That's right. Use all the work that you need to get your advocacy there. So, and then we want to learn from each other, to figure out the best ways to advocate as well. And lastly, I want to talk about some of the tools that are available that you can use. And we're going to share some of these tools with you after the conference. But some of the tools are available for you online. So the first is our UNCF. Oh, it's not just UNCF. It's a tool that we created in conjunction with the Department of Education under the Obama administration, with NCLR, with UNIDOS now, the National PTA, America Achieves. And we wanted to provide some resources to parents, questions to ask, because sometimes it just comes down to, you don't know what you don't know. And so we wanted to prompt parents with some questions. And so I'll go over a couple of these in terms of quality, wanting to know, is my child getting a great education, and how can we work together if my child falls behind? Because again, it's a partnership. Readiness is a key piece, and I'll share some other resources. Asking the teachers and the principals, how will you measure my child's progress, ability in various subjects? Safety and health. Is my child safe and cared for at school? We surveyed Black parents in 2012 and again with the second wave. And the number one factor in choosing a school for our parents are concerned with safety. And so we have some key questions to ask in terms of, what programs are in place to ensure the school is safe, a nurturing and a positive environment. Because safety can mean a lot of things. It's psychologically safe, physically safe, and the like. But then also a great teachers, what kind of professional development is available to teachers? Asking, is your child engaged in learning every day? Asking your teacher, you can ask your child, beyond, how was your day? Good, that they normally say, kind of try to engage them in some other questions and ask the teacher, what they thought. Equity and fairness is a key question. Does my child have the opportunity to succeed and be treated fairly? And are the classes provided ready to prepare them for success? We also have resources for parents. We created a resource guide for community leaders, which is also applicable to parents. Ashlyn, I think, will drop some of that information in the chat, and we'll also share. But that has tips and tools about launching social media campaigns, building partnerships. We also have a forthcoming parent advocacy toolkit that we're having released in partnership with the Center for Black Educator Development about advocating for our Black teachers, because we know that representation, that representation is transformative. And when Black parents and educators collaborate, they can create environments for children that they can thrive. So there's campaigns in there like We Need Black Teachers, talking points, tangible advocacy strategies. My colleague Ashlyn Thomas is a lead author on that report, and we'll be sure to share that with you when it's available. But in the meantime, you can go to uncf.org/parent voices, and the toolkit will be there in the next couple of months, hopefully next month. And then there's also Learning Heroes. This is a phenomenal organization. They have several teaching engagement tools. They partner with different people. I know they partner with different celebrities and trying to get this promoted. They have a parent-teacher planning tool that they've been implemented that you can download and then bring to some of those parent sessions, the teacher sessions that you have in the school district. They also have these readiness guides, which are kind of are games. They're kind of like games that you can play with your child online to see if they're on grade level. So your child may not think, it's a quiz, but it's assessing them to know to ask your teacher, is my child on time? Do they need additional supports? And so you can follow that. There's also college readiness resources, and you can learn more about that at bealearninghero.org. And they're really proponents of making sure that we know that there's not a discrepancy between parents saying that their kids are at or above grade level when some of their research shows that half of students are starting the year not being on grade level. Also, the National PTA. I'm sure many of you have heard about PTA. They have tips and tools, obviously, on how to run PTA, but they also have some interesting tools on preparing testimony, conducting meetings with the decision maker, and how to interface with the media. Their key part of their advocacy is making sure that people are mobilized. And so there's tips and tools to interacting with principal superintendents. There is a legislative conference taking place in March. I know they've had some virtual conferences as well. So if you check out pta.org, they have several pieces of information there as well. The National Parents Union is an excellent organization. They have resources on how to form these partnerships and allies, how to write these advocacy letters, organize a social media campaign. And they also have some training modules that you can look through as well. One of their mottos is nothing about us without us. And that's important. We want to make sure that they're not making education reform from our districts to the school leaders without having our voices at the table. So they have several opportunities to get involved. And we also want to provide some resources for youth, especially for our parents of high school students, even middle school students. We surveyed African-American students across the country, about almost 1,000 African-American high school students. And we asked them, does their school give information about HBCUs? And about close to 80% said they wanted more information. And so we think that this is a problem because it's not only just about HBCUs, it's about school counselors not providing students pathways and talking about all their options. We often know that some of our school counselors dissuade Black students from higher education pathways. And in particular, schools that are great for them, that have a cultural environment that we know are rigorous. And so we had some quotes from our HBCU students as well that we interviewed in focus groups. And one of the students said, they actually dissuaded us from going to an HBCU because they just felt like it couldn't do anything for us. So we have you covered with resources to be able to share with your school counseling office and to advocate for those HBCU fairs, advocate for having resources for our students. And we also have an HBCU resource guide to provide you with that information as well. We also provide community webinars, especially for our parents that are maybe high school students, middle school students. And we do this the second Tuesday of each month at 6 p.m. where you can ask questions, scholarship tips, essay writing, and we have a phenomenal outreach team that's there to help parents and students in getting information ready for college. And then our link tree, we have several resources at UNCF. We have our link tree here that has resources to get information and to sign up for some of the information on our website. And so again, I want to flood you. I know we have a lot of resources here for you. Ashlyn's probably dropping things in the chat and we'll definitely share. But I just want to end with a quick story. So I told you, at the beginning how I learned about advocacy through my parents, and I remember in elementary school when I got in trouble for, what you think, what you guessed it, talking again, talking before recess. Except for this time, it wasn't me, Q Shaggy. It was not me this time. I was adamant. I knew there were some times that I was talking, but this time I was not. And so, I told my mom about it. And she, she was going to go talk to the teacher. But then I said, you know what? No. I'm going to write her a letter explaining my case, letting her know that I wasn't talking. Because you see, I also learned from my faith, from my parents, that they instilled in me, and I'm a Christian. 1 Timothy 4:2 says, let no man despise your youth. And so I make sure I instill in our children that they shouldn't look down on you because you're young. And that's what my parents instilled in me. So, I wrote up this letter, as a child in my jagged handwriting. I gave it to the teacher and I had the dramatics in the letter. I stand before God and say I wasn't talking because I was adamant because again, they taught me how to advocate. And that teacher apologized to me, and I remember feeling so empowered that I had advocated for myself. Several years had passed. I used that same determination to advocate in college for various ways, writing for the paper oftentimes, also now with our PTA. And now in my current career in K-12 advocacy, where I've had the opportunity to be a voice or advocate for parents in front of policymakers here, in front of mayors. And it was all rooted in my parents modeling what it meant to speak up and have your voices heard. So if not for anything else, because we know there are various issues to tackle, that we can have our voices heard. We know that there are so many issues across the country, but just being a role model for your children that they know when they see an injustice or when something has gone awry, that they don't just sit on the sidelines, that they act. And so just want to leave you with this, that advocacy begins with us, whether it's asking the right questions at a parent-teacher meeting, joining a local school board, or just sharing your own story to uplift others. We all have a role to play. And our children's future really depend on it. And so I want to ensure that when we say Black Parents Matter, it's not just a statement, it's a movement. And so we want to hear from you. I'm thankful to have this opportunity to talk to you all. Happy to share any information, and just remember that your advocacy empowers your own children. And I'll leave our information here up for you if you want to connect with us, get involved, and then I'll also have my contact information as well, and as well as ability to join our listserv. So thank you for the time, and if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Wow, thank you, Dr. Anderson. What an incredible keynote, right? She's given us so much to think about when it comes to advocacy and education and the role of Black parents in shaping our children's future. Now, what I want to do is open the floor for questions in the chat, so that way we can dive even deeper into this important conversation. And just so you know, you all will get the resources by Monday in a follow-up email. So you'll get all these wonderful things so you can advocate for your child. And so I want to know who has the first question. Put it in the chat, please. Okay, I see Verlyn, she raised her hand. Can you put it in the chat though, Verlyn? Or do you want to, we can bring you to the screen. I can get Aluchi to do that. Can we do that? I don't have a problem with that.
What type of data should we
There we go.
request? So, I would say it's based on your local community. So, for example, we know based on Office for Civil Rights data that our Black children are often overrepresented in discipline. So maybe it's an issue with discipline and you're seeing a consistent theme in your district. I would suggest asking, what are the expulsion rates for our Black children? What are they by grade level? Because data shows that pre-K students are suspended at a rate, I think it was like 2 times their population size. So all that information we know is available by getting the data. Maybe it's information on who's taking AP classes. We know there are various discrepancies in our Black students having access, being recommended for AP courses or gifted and talented courses, what they're called, honors courses. Maybe you want to request that information. SAT taking. So I think there's various types of data that you can request. Graduation rates are important. And then I think there's also data that you can collect related, even on the collegiate level. I think there's some important pieces about like remedial education and how students are being assigned. And so think about some of those pieces of data. And I'm happy to chat with you based on like your local community to figure out what pieces of data to collect.
We have a question. Did you see the one about the Department of Education? What do you suggest parents actively do when it comes to the current threat to the Department of Education?
So, I think right now we are all learning. We're trying to figure out what's coming next. But we know that at least with politics, so many things are local. And so I would still just press on your local school boards, press on your local districts, and then also advocacy. I know there's probably going to be some mobilization of our parents around what's going on across the country. And so I think it's really important that we stay attuned to this. I know some of the organizations might even have toolkits to see how you can gather information and provide that advocacy on that. But right now, I know we're, as an organization, we're also trying to figure out, where things stand. We've trying to support our member HBCUs as best we can, but we know it's just right now a little bit in a state of flux as we're trying to figure things out. So I would say stay tuned. We'll likely be issuing some advocacy goals for us as an organization, and we'll be sure to share that information.
That's fantastic. Let me see. Do we have any other questions? Okay. Well, let me ask you one question myself then, and then we'll have time maybe for one more question. So whoever wants to post it, please do. what are some ways, like just as a parent, if I'm, we always hear we're busy, we're working. How can we get involved in some of those things if we're always like working and can't get off work? Because today we have what, 5 days of PTO, and you got to use them when you're sick too. So what do you say to parents who are in that position?
I think it's important that you use with what you can do in your schedule. Like earlier, there's various ways to testify. You don't always have to carve out time out of your day to go testify because some of us might not have that flexibility, but you can still write a testimony and submit it in. I know it's still, it takes some time, but those are things that can help as well. And then, just trying to carve out that time. Maybe it's sometime a little bit every week, may not be sometime every week, but just finding that time to do what works for you. Again, I'm a busy parent as well, but I try to carve out as much time as I can for that advocacy. But I think also digital advocacy is important too, making sure that we're uplifting campaigns, that we're sharing information. And I also wouldn't discredit, Janice, just sharing information with other parents. We surveyed Black parents in the past and asked them, where do you get information about supporting your children? And outside of churches and church programs, talking to other parents, that was a key way that they advocate. So even if it's just in your group chat, sharing some information, that's how advocacy is started, at the grassroots. So talking to the people in your circle and your sphere of influence is even a way to do some advocacy work.
Okay, that's fantastic. And this is our last question that we can ask today, but are there advocacy resources available that are specific to helping young Black boys successfully matriculate through the public school system?
I believe there are several resources, and one, I know one of our parents mentioned in our study, the 100 Black Men, they offer mentorship opportunities as well. In terms of the data support, there's the SHOT Institute that has information on Black males as well. There is still My Brother's Keeper that was started by President Obama. Even though, he's not in office anymore, there are still, oh, thank you, Ashton, for dropping in the chat. They still have liaisons. They still are doing the work to support our Black males. And so those are some of the resources that are available too. There's also resources from our fraternities and sororities that are available to students. So thinking through, some of our fraternities that have mentorship programs in the communities, Boys and Girls Club, I think are helpful. And we'll be sure to think of some other resources too to share as well. And Tawana, and if you share your information with us or with Janice, we'll follow up with some resources as well, because I know we have some connections for some other organizations too.
All right. Well, that's all the questions we can take. Let's take a moment to show our appreciation for Dr. Anderson's insights and wisdom. Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Everybody give applause, love, claps, hands up, whatever you want to do. So thank you so much for coming out and talking to us about all these wonderful things and how we can advocate for our children.